Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, The Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited. This weekend I get to go out with Mark, one of our head coaches.
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, he's joining me for a couple of days. So we're doing one overnight. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of cool. I've been planning the trip and looking at the route. And obviously, for the listeners that may not know, I'm doing the mountain leader training. And part of it when you plan the trip, and I don't know if you did this stuff, but there's like the 4 Ds. I think it's depth, distance, direction, and detail. Point being is when you plan your trip, you want to plan each leg, taking in those 4 different descriptions. And part of the reason why I got my ass kicked last week or the week before when I was in there is because basically the guy I was with, I just left it all up to him. So I didn't really know what was coming. I didn't have a clue where we were going. My camp etiquette was rubbish. My pace was off. My strength was off. So anyway, past 2 weeks, I'm back in the gym, as you know, because you're in the gyms as well. Back, going from working at home because of quarantine and whatnot, back in the gym, lifting weights to get my strength back up. And just been planning that trip, and I'm really excited for it. I'm really looking forward to it. I feel way more prepared, way more in control, let's say, ahead of the game with this, rather than just going along with somebody else's plan. And I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. It's great to hear. It'd be fun. I'll be looking forward to seeing those pictures of you and Mark.
Yeah. Credit to him as well. He's been hunting me down. He's not let it go the past few weeks, which has been great because it's forced me to get another weekend in. I'm not sure I would have done before Christmas had he not been like boof, 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 knocking on the door. So I love it. Thank you, Mark, if you're listening to this, because you've definitely helped me to get another weekend in.
Fantastic.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting some tests from Amelia. She's like, this is the 3rd weekend in a row where you've not done anything with us. Because there's this weekend where I went camping, last weekend when we did the summit, weekend before when I was in the mountains again. And it's interesting. And obviously last night I came down after working, cooked dinner with her. And then maybe we'll chill sometimes watching Netflix, but I have no interest for the most part. I just do it to chill with her, right? But the past few nights, I've been getting out the maps and looking at the route and looking at the forecasts and all that kind of stuff. What's it going to be like? Where we're going to pitch, blah, blah, blah. And even like past 2 nights, she's like, you're not paying me any attention. You're just coming down. It's like I'm not here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've just been sat with you, eating, cooked your dinner, chatting with you. You said, you're not going to ask me how my day went? She's like, no. It's like, okay. But it's just great to have the knowledge and watch what's going on. Not that I respond perfectly every time, but it's just great to see what's going on. And even when I don't respond perfectly, for the most part, I can course correct. So it's great. I love it. A lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, Tim, what do you want to talk about today? I know you had an idea that you want to throw on the table.
Yeah, well, interesting. And I wonder whether any of the guys are going to relate to this. I guess it probably falls under the same idea of, she'll never leave me. She'll never file for divorce. Well, who've ever thought that she'll never empty the bank account? Maybe it's never even crossed your mind. And maybe she wouldn't ever. But point being is, there was a guy I was speaking with this week, in fact, who went to his account to go and transfer the money across for the investment. And his account had been wiped, cleared. And the bank said, well, hang on, sir, you signed for this. This is your signature. He's like, hang on a minute. I didn't sign. This isn't me. Which has then triggered an investigation, right? And he's like, well, if this is my wife, then there's no way I'm investing in the marriage. I'm gone. If it's not my wife, which I hope it isn't, then cool, it's all good. Well, he doesn't know yet whether it is or it isn't. But the point is, it's maybe someone's forged your signature. You don't know. There's lots of possibilities, right? But it's been done in bank with his signature.
Well, clearly this isn't a joint account, right? So clearly this is just this guy's account, because otherwise his wife would have been able to sign her own name to empty it out if she wanted to, unless she was trying to somehow be sneaky, but that wouldn't work anyway. So this must be his own account.
Yep.
Gotcha. Which then begs the question. Well, I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, I don't know how you and Amelia do it, but there are a lot of couples that don't have joint accounts, that keep separate accounts and maybe put it into a lump account at the end of the day, or everybody handles finances differently. But wow, either way, that's a tough situation to be in, and even more tough if it's his wife, because that's such a violation of trust. There's got to be more to this story.
Oh yeah, for sure. But what it really got me thinking about, and you raise a great point, because over the past week or so, it's been interesting. Coincidentally, ever since we did that podcast about investing and how to approach the conversation with your wife, there's been a few instances where guys have said, "Hey, look, I see the value. I believe in this. I've been following you guys a while. I've been part of the marriage reset. I'm all in. Want to do it." Just got to clear it with the wife first, because we have a rule whereby if there's any purchases above, one guy said $2,500, another guy said $200. If there's any purchases above a certain figure, then we talk about it. I was like, cool, okay, interesting. I get that. He said, yeah, well, it stops her from going away and just buying Louis Vuitton handbags. It stops me from going away and buying rifles and toys. It just, it just controls things a little bit. And I don't know how you manage finances, but for me, what Amelia and I do, it's a little bit different because obviously we don't have kids. So I guess that probably once kids come in, it adds another layer, right? Yeah, so we have the joint account, but then we have our personal accounts as well. And the personal accounts, obviously, we can just do whatever we want with. We have a set amount that we agree to put into savings, into the joint account from each of our personal accounts each month. And then, whatever's left over in the personal account, we can do what we want with. But yeah, it's interesting because it does beg the question about money getting cleared. Let's just assume that it is the wife, just for the context of this conversation, right? And it was a bank account that she didn't have access to. Maybe she just found it. Maybe they're going through troubles. They are going through troubles, but maybe she just found it. For whatever reason, she's wanted to get that money out. And these are the guys as well that are saying, hey, we've got a spend limit. So yeah, I'm just curious, how do you guys manage it? Because you're in a similar position to Amelia and I, in the sense that, Erin doesn't work, Amelia doesn't work. You're the guy that brings in the income for right now. Same here. So how do you work it?
Our finances?
Do you guys have that same rule? Yeah, do you have that same rule like the other guys do?
Not really. We did at one point, but it's kind of, I did a post recently in the Alpha Marriage Reset, the Powerful Marriage Reset. And the idea of the post was, what happens with a lot of guys, and this is the way it used to be for us, you sit down and talk about finances and you end up fighting. You end up arguing about where the allocation should be, it becomes a control issue. It's never a good conversation. And what I realized was happening is it was the emotional bank account, not the financial bank account, that was actually bankrupt. And, when you go to make withdrawals, like, hey, let's sit down, talk about our finances, talk about our financial goals for our family. The woman doesn't want anything to do with it because she doesn't trust you emotionally. So how could she even take the leap to talk about finances, right? Because that's, the least of her worries, so to speak. But then come to find out what the woman's worried about is, if you're going to leave, then where's my security? But so to come back to your question of how Erin and I do it. So we have a joint account, right? We don't talk about, if it's a big purchase, we'll talk about it. But, to give you an idea, I was going to buy, a sauna, like a wood sauna for our backyard. It's going to cost me probably $9,000 to $11,000, depending on how I did it. And it wasn't even really a discussion. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm going to buy this. It's all, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking at. And that was the end of the conversation. And it's because we do sit down and talk about finances. More importantly, she just trusts what I'm doing with our finances. So I manage everything. I keep her in the loop of kind of big things that I'm doing. So if I moved, like recently I moved all of our retirement accounts and I'm restructuring them to give you an idea. So it's a decent amount of money that's being moved around and shuffled. And she'd like to be involved, but there's just so much going on and things that she wants to do. And she trusts me that she's allowing it just to happen. I think what happens to a lot of guys though, is when the marriage starts to go bad, they start to squirrel away money. They start to hide money. And that's where problems happen, is when the wife finds out about that.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think back to one of these guys, he said as well, part of the reason, Tim, we do have this rule, but also she manages the finances. So what he had done, although he'd been focused on his career for the past 10, 15 years, he'd also given away all of the responsibility for the kids, for the household, for the finances to his wife. So he didn't even know. It is. And it's kind of crazy as well. But also obvious if you have problems in the marriage and there's disconnect, and the classic, what this obviously feeds is your wife becoming the alpha.
Oh yeah.
And to be honest, I remember when I was in a similar position with Amelia, it wasn't for very long. I can remember when she stepped into the Powerful Man years ago in the early days of it to help me out. And she just paid bills and paid herself, that kind of thing. But it slowly got into the habit and routine of me then saying, hey, can you send me X? Can you send me boom? And then because obviously she was paying the bill, she said, oh, cool. So what's that for? What's that for? And at first I didn't really think anything of it. It was just like, cool, well, honesty, it's this, it's that, it's the other. Until then it started to turn into really a lack of trust in my leadership for the most part. That's what it started to eventually evolve into, because it kind of snowballed. And I didn't really see it coming back then either. And it was only when I wanted to make a big decision, I say a big decision, a decision that was going to impact us both about moving into a particular place to live. But I was adamant that this was an important move for us both. Whether she wanted to join me or not, I was doing it. Didn't mean I didn't want to be with her, but hey, I'm going here, kind of thing. And at the same time, I said, and look, I'm taking back control of the finances. And she said, what do you mean? I said, look, I'm taking back control of them. I'm not being funny, but it's my business. I'm making the money. I'm going to control it. And I tried to do it a little bit more subtly than that, but the message wasn't landing. And we did argue about it, and we didn't see eye to eye. We disagreed about it, but I just had to just switch it and take back that sense of leadership. And it was one of the best things I did, because it happened over about several weeks, this period of taking back control of finances, moving place, all that kind of stuff. And the result of that, by the end of it, was the relationship was in a different place. But yeah, this guy yesterday, he said, look, Tim, I'm so tired when I come home from work. The last thing I want to do is think about the finances and answer questions for the finances, answer questions for the kids. But he's now wound up in a place where his wife has left, because essentially he was training his wife to operate on her own all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In a long commute back and forth to work. You get back from work, exhausted, like I said. So by the time he got back, it was late in the day as well. So, for the most part, since early in the morning till late at night, his wife has been on her own leading. So really, with him not being in the house, it actually made things easier for her, because she had one less person to clean up after, one less person to think about. Her life suddenly becomes easier if she chooses to not be there. And that's what's actually happened the past couple of months. He messaged her and said, hey, I miss you. He was wanting to get back in the home. She said, honestly, I don't miss you. And it hurt him. But the point is, with the finances, it's super important to be in that leadership role with it. And like you said, it totally is a reflection of the emotional connection and trust that's there.
Yeah. So for me, I think, it's important to be in the conversation, whether it's both of you sitting down and going over finances and equally owning it, or, the man takes over, or what have you. That's not as consequential to me but when I hear the story of the guy you're just talking about, what resonates with me is a lot of times us guys, we're going out there, we're killing it and work, and we forget about what's going on at home, right? We don't know what our kids' interests are at a deep level. We don't know what snacks they need or what have you. You hear that a lot. These are symptoms of a bigger problem, guys. And when these symptoms start to arise, that becomes more issues. And you said something that was really interesting, is that, she now doesn't have to take care of someone else, right? And he's and to no fault of his own. So I'm not putting this guy down. This is so common, it's ridiculous. But he's made himself a child in the home and made her his wife. His wife made her his mother rather than his actual lover. We have a podcast kind of about this earlier on. People can go back and look. But, and again, this is no fault of his own. This is the way society's taught us to do it, right? And I used to try to do this too. And then I realized how unsexy would that be for my wife to treat me like a boy. And you talked about taking back the leadership. I think you got to take back the leadership within yourself, right? I just never take something from my wife. I just, by my presence and what I'm doing, right, it starts to go through. So back to finances again, I'll tie this together. What I started doing was preparing spreadsheets and things that I was learning about finance. And hey, here are the APRs. Here's this. Look, if you want to be involved, I need you to do these things to get through, unless you have a better plan, which she didn't, right? Unless you have a better plan. And she didn't also want to do those things. She just wanted to know what was going on and feel safe and secure. And, by being in charge, I gave her space to surrender into what she really wanted, right? And what she really wanted to do into her feminine energy. And instead of making her my mom, like, hey, take care of me, cook me meals, clean up after me, I treated myself like a grown man, as if I was living independently, right? So guys, if you're expecting your wife to cook, clean, do all your laundry, pick up after you and all these things, you're going to have to give her some transition time to get into her feminine. And the reality is, to this guy, in the unfortunate circumstance that she leaves you, guess what you're going to be doing by yourself? Cooking, cleaning, picking up after yourself. So you might as well just start doing some of that now. Create some more space for your partner to be in her feminine energy. And this doesn't mean she gets a free ride and gets to watch reruns of Netflix all day while eating bonbons. I'm not saying that at all, right? She's got to do her work too. But this gives you the space for her to be in her feminine energy. And then what comes out on the other side of that, Tim, is you have a woman who is sensual. You have a woman who has time to be with you in a way that can fill you up as well. Not that you need her to fill you up, but in a way that does fill you up with fun, intimacy, as well as sensuality.
Well said. Well said. I love that. So you touched on some then, but give the guys some speak to that guy that is in the position where he realizes, crap, I've been giving away all of the leadership, the finances in particular, to my wife, right? What are the steps? What practical steps can he take to then? You mentioned a couple of moments ago, but what practical steps can he take to be able to reclaim some responsibility there?
So just finances?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to, obviously it reflects other areas too, right? So if you want to bring those in, then go for it.
Sure. So with finances, first thing is clean your house, right? And I mean, your financial house. So you need to know what's going on. You need to know what your bank accounts are. You need to know what your budget is. You need to know what your investments are. Not that it's trusted to your investment advisor and he seems like a good guy. No. You need to know what they are and what the outcome is you're desiring and why you have it, right? So here in the States, the valuation of the dollar is going down, right? It's pretty much everybody knows it's going to continue to go down. At least that's what everybody suspects. So you need to have a baseline understanding of what that means. And I don't have a deep understanding at all. I'm trying to learn amongst other things, but just a baseline so you can be in charge and so she can trust that you're at least managing it, or enough to know when something's astray. And you know what your income is coming in. So you have to have that. That's the first thing. It's just that knowledge. Second thing is you got to have leadership over yourself, guys. You really do. And this is where, we talk about the Alpha Rise and Shine. Got to get that program in, right? And this bleeds over into finance in so many different ways. I know it's not about money, but it's about being in your power. And you don't just, I personally wouldn't go to my wife and say, this is changing. I'm doing this. You're doing that. I would just be the example, right? By my shift in energy, that changes everything. So we talk about the triad of connection. Number 3, third thing you can do is learn the triad of connection really, really well and get that. If you haven't been through one of our programs or gone through something, then jump in the program right now, right? The Triadic Connection is the best way I've ever seen it, because it's going to break down the walls between you and your partner. And now you're going to have dialogue, right? Now you can have smooth dialogue. And by doing these three things, the money, the power, whatever you want to call it, the leadership of the family is naturally going to flow in your direction. It's almost like, Tim, if you have, so I have a stream in the back of my house that comes through, and it's man-made, but it's a long stream and it flows. My son likes to put rocks, dam it up, right? He's a boy. So imagine 3 rocks that are in that stream damming up the water flow. Each of these 3 things I just mentioned, by removing those or doing them, you're removing water and letting that flow of energy, leadership, the alpha energy flow into your relationship, and thus allow the feminine nature of your wife to flow in. And that's how you easily gain financial control without force. Right? There's a difference between taking something and then somebody else, your partner, just offering it on a plate to you and just giving it to you. So, don't get so concerned, in my opinion, right? If you're hiding money, that's a symptom of a bigger problem. I know I looked at doing that, right? My wife looked at doing that early in our relationship when we were going through our hard times. And now I can see that, right? Hindsight being 2020. That's a symptom of something else that's going on. And that something else has nothing to do with money. Most of our guys that listen to this are business leaders. We'll make the money again. That's not the big deal. The big deal is the trust in the relationship. And that's really hard to get back.
You raise a good point. So I think if the guys are listening to this, it's resonating. What would you suggest for them to start with taking back the leadership within themselves? And as that starts to, those rocks start to then, because you said 3 things, right?
Yep.
As those rocks start to get removed, it's going to shift things, right? It forms part of the Triadic Connection. And then at that point, it could create a better environment to then have the financial conversation. Whereas if the guy just goes straight to have the financial conversation,
won't work.
Then chances are it's not going to go well.
Yeah, your financial literacy is the least of these, right, guys? Your financial literacy is the least, right? She needs to trust you before she's ever going to trust you with the money, right? She needs to trust that you are the man that she married, that she saw when she married, and she needs to trust that you will have her. And you can't have that unless you have the Triadic Connection first. Second, you're owning yourself. They kind of go hand in hand, Tim. Because if you're doing the work in the Triadic Connection, you are owning yourself, right? It's a big portion of that. So financial literacy is a distant third in this example, right? It's a pebble in the dam. You got 2 big rocks, I guess, and then one little small one that you could easily just kick away pretty quickly.
I love it. Well said. Well said.
Well, awesome, guys. If this is your first time joining us, please go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus and grab your bonus. It's still the Reignite cheat sheet, everybody, because we've gotten such great reviews on that. People love the results they're getting immediately. So we want to keep giving that to you guys. And of course, if you've been with us for a little while, really appreciate you going ahead and leaving a rating, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get this episode, or even YouTube. And let us know what you think, right? Let us know what you think about this. These honest reviews that you guys are leaving allow other men just like you to find this information, and they're anonymous. So please leave a review. Greatly appreciate it. And guys, have an amazing, amazing rest of your week.